I've always wanted to visit Savannah, Georgia. I mean, I'm a sucker for southern cities, and Savannah has been on my radar since I was a teenager watching Forrest Gump. So when my wife and I had a long weekend in March, we decided it was finally time to go. Savannah is known for its beautiful squares and its antebellum architecture, but did you know that it's also considered one of the most haunted cities in America? We decided to explore those spooky stories ourselves on this trip. We stayed in a haunted hotel room, went on a ghost tour, and learned all about the ghosts of Savannah. This is our story. When we arrived, we were excited to see that our hotel was right across from Bonaventure Cemetery, which is supposedly one of the most haunted cemeteries in America. And if you're a fan of the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, then you might be familiar with this cemetery because it features prominently in the story. You may have even seen the movie based on the book starring Johnny Depp. We didn't have time to go to Bonaventure Cemetery on this trip, but it's definitely on our list for next time. We parked our car and checked into the Marshall house. The woman at the front desk gave us a warning before we headed up to our room. She told us that our room was on the 3rd floor and to watch out for the elevator. As soon as the doors opened to our room, we saw why. Right inside the entrance was a framed photo of a young girl in a nightgown standing in front of the exact same door. The photo was dated 1918, and we later learned that this little girl is actually the ghost of the hotel. Her name is Helen Viola. She was staying in the hotel with her mother and brother in 1918 when she became sick. Helen died in that room, and ever since, people have reported seeing her ghost wandering the halls, shaking the beds, and even interacting with guests. Since we were staying in the room where she died, we felt like we had a pretty good chance of seeing her. We asked the front desk lady if she had any tips on how to make contact with Helen. She said, "Just talk to her." So we did. We talked to her before we went out for dinner, before we went to bed, and even once in the middle of the night when I had to get up to use the bathroom. I think it's safe to say that no one can really communicate with ghosts, but I will admit that some places are better suited for it than others. The Marshall house is one of those places. Just listen to this. In 2016, a guest recorded a voice message while sitting in the room. They weren't saying anything, but when they listened back to the recording, they could hear their name being called. The front desk staff member told us that they've had other experiences with Helen too. One of them even mentioned that they once saw Helen standing next to a full-length mirror, and yet there was no reflection. Another one of them shared the story of a couple who stayed in the room for their honeymoon. In the middle of the night, the woman woke up and saw a little girl in a Victorian nightgown standing at the foot of the bed. When she turned to wake her husband up to show him what she saw, he was lying face down in the bed with his hands over his head. He had somehow slept through the entire thing. When she nudged him and told him to look, he rolled over and started crying. Apparently, he had a vivid dream that he was in World War II and his entire battalion was being wiped out by enemy fire. That's not exactly the kind of dream that you want to have while you're laying in your honeymoon bed. But maybe it was all just a dream. Maybe there is no such thing as ghosts. Or maybe they were just messing with us. One night while we were laying in bed, we heard loud footsteps in the hallway. We sat there listening, and eventually the footsteps came right outside of our room. Then everything went silent. My wife and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. Whoever was walking down the hallway had probably seen the creepy sign on our door and thought it would be funny to mess with us. Another time we were laying in bed and we heard chains dragging metal moans. I don't know about you guys, but those sound like chains dragging metal moans to me. But when we got up the next morning and pulled the curtains back, we saw that a new restaurant was being built right across the street from our window. I guess those were just construction workers. But not every scary experience in Savannah happens in the historic district. In the early 1900s, a man named William Screven Bonaventure decided to open a small amusement park on Wilmington Island. It was called Bonaventure's Oak Lodge Park. Today, the land where the park used to be is occupied by a middle school and a soccer field. And most people have forgotten that there was even an amusement park here. But according to locals, the ghosts of Bonaventure's Oak Lodge Park still remain. One day, while playing on the soccer fields, students reported seeing the ghost of a little girl wearing a blue dress. Some claim that she drowned in the old lake on the grounds of the former amusement park. Others say she was electrocuted while riding the carousel. To this day, some days when the clouds part just right, they say you can see the imprint of her body in the clouds. They call it the Blue Girl Cloud. There's even a local legend that says if you find the spot where the cloud forms, then you'll be granted good luck for a year. The students at the school have searched the sky every day for a glimpse of the Blue Girl Cloud, but so far no one has seen it. There's another legend about Bonaventure's Oak Lodge Park that involves a group of teenagers. Legend has it that one night a group of teenagers decided to spend the night on the grounds. They claimed that they were going to stay until sunrise, but they never made it that long. According to witnesses, they were only on the grounds for a few minutes when they began to experience strange events. They saw apparitions moving through the trees. They heard the screams of children and animals, and then they smelled the stench of rotting flesh. All of them agreed that they needed to leave immediately. And that's when things got weird. One of them dropped his lighter on the ground and it ignited a pile of dry leaves. The group panicked and tried to stomp out the fire, but it just spread. Soon the entire forest was a blazing inferno. Witnesses say that when the teens tried to run away, the forest seemed to reach out and grab them. Some were burned alive and others never left the woods at all. And now their souls are trapped within the trees. Local police officers regularly patrol the area after dark to keep teenagers from venturing into the woods, and they tell anyone who asks that there is absolutely nothing out there but trees. Of course, we had to go on a ghost tour. Most of the buildings in Savannah's historic district were built in the mid to late 1800s, and many of these buildings served as hospitals during the Civil War. In fact, the Telfair Academy was used as a hospital for Confederate soldiers for many years. People say that the building is still haunted by a soldier who was shot in the back while trying to escape. His name was Thomas Gamble, and he died right there in the courtyard. They say that sometimes people pass by and feel a cold breeze or see his apparition walking the grounds. The ghost tour took us through the Mercer Williams house, which was made famous by the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It's actually possible to take a tour of the house if you visit. The guide told us the story of Jim Williams, who was a wealthy antiques dealer in the 1980s. One night, he came home to find two men stealing from his house. He went to confront them, but one of the thieves pulled out a gun and shot him in the chest. Jim survived, but he died a few months later from complications. Many believe that his ghost still haunts the house, especially the ballroom, where he was found kneeling beside a chair as if he were waiting for someone. There's even a report of a psychic who visited the home, saying that she saw Jim's ghost dressed in a velvet smoking jacket. And then he disappeared behind a bookshelf. It was hard to say goodbye to Savannah. If we had more time, we would have gone back to Bonaventure Cemetery and explored more of the city. But Savannah has definitely earned a spot on our list of favorite cities. So if you're looking for a fun weekend getaway, and you like history and Southern charm, we highly recommend Savannah. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.